The massive research station hung in space like a silver snowflake, its branching arms glowing with pale blue light. Inside one of these arms, Dr. Zorlak paced back and forth in his laboratory, his four eyes blinking at different times as he reviewed data on floating screens. "Humans," he said, his voice making the word sound like an insult. "Why must I waste my valuable time studying such primitive creatures?" Dr. Zorlak was the leading xenobiologist on the Galactic Medical Research Station. With scaly blue-green skin and 6 nimble fingers on each hand, he belonged to a species called Vexillians, who prided themselves on their advanced biology and superior medical knowledge. His assistant, Dr. Nexian, looked up from her workstation. "The Confederation Council considers this first contact important. Humans have achieved faster than light travel much earlier in their development than expected. A lucky accident, nothing more." Zorlak waved one hand dismissively. "Any species can stumble upon the right formula eventually. Their biology, however, is another matter entirely. I've reviewed their transmitted medical data, and frankly, I'm not impressed." Medical Officer Prelia, who had been quietly organizing specimen containers nearby, frowned. Her pink skin flushed darker with embarrassment at her superior's attitude. "Perhaps we should reserve judgment until after we meet them," she suggested. Zorlak made a huffing noise through his breathing slits. "Their respiratory system alone is laughably inefficient. One route for air and food? It's a wonder they don't choke to death regularly." The station's announcement system chimed, interrupting his critique. "Attention all personnel. Human diplomatic vessel Northern Star has docked at Bay 12. Welcome ceremony will commence in 30 minutes. Zorlak sighed dramatically. "Let's get this over with." The docking bay was crowded with curious station personnel when Zorlak arrived with his medical team. Most had never seen a human before, and excitement buzzed through the air. The airlock doors slid open and 5 humans walked through. They looked strangely naked to Zorlak's eyes. No scales, minimal hair, skin in various shades of brown. They wore blue uniforms with silver trim that identified them as part of Earth's newly formed Space Navy. Station Director Vela stepped forward. "On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I welcome our visitors from Earth. We are honored by your presence." A tall human male with dark hair and olive skin stepped forward. "Lieutenant Jack Martinez of the Earth Space Navy, thank you for your welcome. May I introduce our delegation?" Zorlak studied the humans as they were introduced. The medical officer, Dr. Olivia Winters, was a female with light brown skin and curly black hair cut short. There was also a communications specialist named Peter Kim, a cultural attaché named Maria Ross, and a security officer named Daniel Green. After the formalities, Director Vela announced, "As per Confederation protocols, all new species must undergo comprehensive medical evaluation. Dr. Zorlak, our chief xenobiologist, will oversee this process." Zorlak stepped forward, not bothering to hide his lack of enthusiasm. "Yes, we have prepared our facilities. If the humans would follow me, we can begin immediately." As they walked through the station's curved hallways, Zorlak began his questioning. "Your transmitted medical data is quite basic. I assume your medical science is still developing?" Dr. Winters smiled politely. "We have much to learn, certainly, but we've made significant progress in the last century." "Indeed," Zorlak said, his tone making it clear he doubted this. "Your cardiovascular system seems particularly vulnerable. A single heart with just 4 chambers, and your blood carries oxygen so inefficiently." Lieutenant Martinez frowned slightly, but kept his diplomatic composure. "Our bodies have served us well enough." They arrived at the medical bay, a large circular room filled with advanced equipment. Most of it was unfamiliar to the humans, who looked around with undisguised curiosity. "We'll begin with basic physiological scans," Zorlak announced. "Please remove your outer garments and step onto the scanning platforms." The humans complied, changing into the provided medical gowns. As they stepped onto the scanning platforms, holographic displays appeared above each one, showing detailed images of their internal systems. Zorlak walked between the platforms, making notes and occasionally making sounds that seemed like chuckles or scoffs. "Is something amusing, Doctor?" Lieutenant Martinez asked finally. "Amusing?" "No, merely interesting," Zorlak replied. "Your skeletal structure is so dense and heavy. Most advanced species evolve toward lighter bone structures. And your muscle fibers, so inefficient in their energy usage." Dr. Winters crossed her arms. "Yet those muscles and bones allow us to perform quite well in various gravity environments." "Perhaps by your standards," Zorlak said dismissively. "Your respiratory system is particularly primitive. One pair of lungs, no secondary oxygen absorption mechanism. It's remarkable you function at all in varied atmospheres." The scanning continued, with Zorlak becoming increasingly condescending. He mocked their digestive system, so wasteful, their reproductive methods, so time-consuming and risky, and especially their immune response. "Your immune system is like a blind warrior swinging wildly at anything it encounters," he said, zooming in on the cellular display of Maria Ross's blood sample. "It attacks with such aggression and so little precision." Lieutenant Martinez had heard enough. His face had grown progressively redder during Zorlak's commentary, a biological response that Zorlak noted with interest but misinterpreted as shame. "Doctor," Martinez said firmly, "where I come from, it's considered rude to insult someone to their face." Zorlak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Insult? I'm merely making scientific observations. You're making judgments based on your own biology," Dr. Winters pointed out. "Different doesn't necessarily mean inferior." Medical Officer Prelia, who had been assisting silently, now looked extremely uncomfortable. "Dr. Zorlak, perhaps we should proceed with the physical capacity tests." "An excellent suggestion," Martinez said before Zorlak could respond. "In fact, I have a proposal. Since you seem so certain of human inferiority, why not conduct comparative tests? Your species against ours?" Zorlak's mouth opened slightly, showing rows of small pointed teeth, a Vexillian smile of superiority. "A comparison? That hardly seems necessary, but if it would satisfy your curiosity, I would be happy to demonstrate the superior Vexillian physiology." "Excellent," Martinez said, smiling back. "We can begin tomorrow. I'm sure it will be educational for everyone involved." As the humans left to rest in their assigned quarters, Dr. Nexian approached Zorlak. "Are you certain this is wise? We know very little about human capabilities." "Don't be ridiculous," Zorlak said confidently. "Their biology is an open book to me now, and a rather simple one at that. Tomorrow will simply provide scientific confirmation of what we already know." He didn't notice the knowing glance that passed between Prelia and Nexian, nor did he see Lieutenant Martinez's smile as the doors closed behind the human delegation. The testing chamber was large and circular, with a track running around its outer edge. Various equipment was arranged in the center, and observation screens lined the walls. Dr. Zorlak stood confidently in his testing uniform, a sleek silver material that highlighted his blue-green scales. The human delegation entered, with Lieutenant Martinez and Dr. Winters dressed in simple Earth exercise clothes, black shorts and gray shirts with the Earth Space Navy logo. "I see you're ready," Zorlak said, looking them up and down, "though I'm not sure your attire is suitable for serious testing." Martinez stretched his arms above his head. "We'll manage. What's first on the agenda?" Medical Officer Prelia stepped forward with a data pad. "We've designed a series of tests to measure physical endurance, strength, reaction time, and adaptability. We'll begin with a simple endurance run." Zorlak's mouth formed his pointed tooth smile. "Excellent. Vexillians are known throughout the galaxy for our superior cardiovascular efficiency." Dr. Nexian explained the test parameters. "You will run at a steady pace. The gravity and air mixture will remain constant. We simply want to see how long each species can maintain physical exertion." Martinez nodded. "Sounds fair." They took positions at the starting line. Zorlak looked relaxed and confident. At Nexian's signal, they began running at a moderate pace around the track. For the first 20 minutes, both ran comfortably. Zorlak occasionally glanced at Martinez, expecting to see signs of fatigue. Instead, the human maintained an even breathing pattern. At 30 minutes, Zorlak's breathing became more pronounced, his chest expanding wider with each breath. Martinez, however, had barely broken a sweat. "Your heart rate is increasing rapidly, Dr. Zorlak," Nexian called out, watching the medical monitors. Lieutenant Martinez's remained stable. After 45 minutes, Zorlak was clearly struggling. His normally blue-green skin had taken on a gray tinge, and his breathing was labored. Martinez continued running steadily, his breathing deeper, but rhythmic. "Perhaps we should end this test," suggested Prelia, concerned for her superior. "No," gasped Zorlak. "I can continue." But after 52 minutes, Zorlak stumbled and had to stop, leaning over with his hands on his knees, gulping air. Martinez stopped as well, his breathing heavy but controlled. He wasn't even close to his limit. "How is this possible?" Zorlak wheezed. Dr. Winters, who had been observing, explained, "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion." Zorlak stared at her in disbelief. "Hours? Yes. Some humans today still run distances of over 40 kilometers for sport. Our marathon races typically take over 3 hours to complete." Zorlak's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. "But your oxygen-carrying capacity should be insufficient for such prolonged exertion." "Our bodies adapted different solutions," Martinez said, taking a drink of water. "We're not better or worse than Vexillians, just different." After a short rest, they moved to the next test, reaction speed and pain tolerance. Each participant would place their hand in a chamber that would deliver increasingly intense pinpricks to the skin. "Vexillians have highly developed nervous systems," Zorlak said, having recovered some of his confidence. "Our pain receptors are extremely sensitive, allowing us to avoid damage before it becomes severe." Dr. Winters nodded. "That's a valid adaptation. Humans, however, can sometimes benefit from the ability to function despite pain." The test began. At first, both showed similar reaction times, pulling their hands away quickly from the mild pinpricks. As the intensity increased, however, differences emerged. Zorlak became increasingly sensitive, jerking his hand away at the slightest touch. Martinez, though clearly feeling the pain, was able to keep his hand steady. "Lieutenant, your pain readings are significant," noted Nexian, watching the monitors. "Yet your reaction is minimal. We can suppress pain responses when needed," Martinez explained. "It's useful in emergency situations." The next test involved temperature tolerance. Participants placed their hands in chambers where the temperature would gradually increase or decrease. In cold temperatures, Zorlak's reptilian biology quickly became sluggish. His hands had to be removed at just 10 degrees Celsius. Martinez remained functional even at 5 degrees. In hot temperatures, the results were closer, but Martinez still outlasted Zorlak by several degrees. "This is unexpected," Zorlak admitted, examining his hands after the test. "Your thermal regulation is remarkably effective despite your lack of specialized cooling structures." "We sweat," Dr. Winters explained. "It's primitive but effective." Throughout the afternoon, more tests revealed more surprises. Martinez could hold his breath longer than Zorlak. Despite having inefficient lungs, his joints proved more flexible. His hearing, while less sensitive to high frequencies, detected a wider overall range of sounds. The final test of the day was perhaps the most revealing. Both participants were asked to consume a small amount of a bitter compound. Harmless, but unpleasant tasting to most species. Zorlak took a tiny sip and immediately spat it out, his face contorting in disgust. "This is vile. It contains plant defense toxins." Martinez drank his entire sample, then raised an eyebrow. "Tastes like coffee. Not great coffee, but drinkable." Dr. Nexian checked her readings in disbelief. "The compound is registering as a mild toxin, yet you show no adverse effects." "Some of our favorite foods and drinks contain mild toxins," explained Dr. Winters. "Caffeine, capsaicin in spicy foods, certain compounds in fermented products. They're all technically plant defense mechanisms." "You consume toxins Deliberately? Zorlak looked horrified yet fascinated. For pleasure, yes, Martinez said with a smile. There's a whole industry built around hot peppers that cause pain when eaten. As the day's testing concluded, Zorlak was unusually quiet. His 4 eyes darted back and forth as he reviewed the data on his pad. His previous smugness had vanished. Tomorrow we'll continue with cognitive and sensory tests, he said finally. Today's results were informative. As the humans left, Dr. Nexian approached Zorlak. Your assessment of human biology seems to be changing. Zorlak stared at the door where the humans had exited. Their adaptations are different, certainly. Perhaps there is something to their approach after all. He hesitated, then added reluctantly, their endurance is truly remarkable. And their toxin resistance? I need to reconsider some of my assumptions. Science is about observation, not preconception, Nexian reminded him gently. Zorlak nodded slowly. Yes, and tomorrow's observations may be even more interesting. He glanced down at his datapad, where Martinez's results glowed on the screen. Very interesting indeed. Morning arrived on the space station, marked by a gradual brightening of the corridor lights. Dr. Zorlak had slept poorly. He had spent most of the night reviewing test results and researching human biology in the station's database. When he entered the laboratory, Dr. Nexian was already there preparing equipment for the day's tests. You look tired, she observed. Did you rest adequately? I was studying, Zorlak replied, his voice quieter than usual. Human biology is more complex than I initially thought. An admission I never expected to hear from you, Nexian said with a gentle smile. Zorlak flicked his hand dismissively. I am a scientist first. When data contradicts theory, a good scientist adjusts the theory. The laboratory doors slid open, and the human delegation entered. Lieutenant Martinez and Dr. Winters looked refreshed and alert. Behind them came the other 3 humans, also looking interested in today's proceedings. Good morning, Martinez said cheerfully. Ready for more surprises today? Zorlak straightened his posture. Today's tests focus on less obvious aspects of biology: sleep efficiency, sensory perception, and cognitive function. Excellent, said Dr. Winters. Though I should mention that humans typically operate on a 24-hour cycle, with 1 sleep period per day. 1. Zorlak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Vexillians require 3 sleep cycles every 24 hours. Winters nodded. Different solutions to different evolutionary challenges. The first test examined sleep efficiency. Brainwave sensors were attached to both Martinez and Zorlak. This will measure how quickly you enter deep sleep and how restorative that sleep is, explained Nexian. You'll each take a 20-minute nap. Both participants reclined in special pods. Zorlak fell asleep almost instantly, his Vexillian brain quickly shutting down non-essential functions. Martinez took longer but eventually drifted off. When they awoke, Nexian studied the results with interest. Fascinating. Dr. Zorlak achieves deeper sleep more quickly, but Lieutenant Martinez's brain shows more intense activity during specific sleep phases. Humans process memories and solve problems during sleep, explained Dr. Winters. We call it REM sleep. Your brain works on problems while unconscious? Zorlak asked, genuinely curious. Yes. People often wake up with solutions to problems they couldn't solve while awake. The next tests examined sensory abilities. As expected, Vexillians demonstrated superior visual acuity and could see into ultraviolet ranges that humans couldn't perceive. However, humans showed better color differentiation and depth perception. Your visual range is more limited, but you extract more information from it, Zorlak noted with professional interest. The most surprising results came from the environmental adaptation tests. The humans were exposed to various atmospheric compositions and pressure changes. While Vexillians could tolerate higher pressures, humans showed remarkable adaptability to oxygen variations. Your red blood cells increase in number when exposed to low oxygen environments, Zorlak said, examining the readings. A simple but effective adaptation. Yes, humans who live at high altitudes naturally develop more red blood cells, Dr. Winters confirmed. Our bodies constantly adapt to their environment. After lunch, they began cognitive testing. Both species performed similarly on memory and logic problems, but differences emerged in creative thinking tasks. This is unexpected, Zorlak said, reviewing the problem-solving results. Humans approach problems from unusual angles. We call it thinking outside the box, Martinez explained. It's valued in our culture. For the final test of the day, Dr. Nexian had prepared a special challenge. Each participant was given a complex mechanical puzzle that required both logical and creative approaches to solve. Zorlak approached the puzzle methodically, analyzing each piece and trying solutions in a systematic way. Martinez, however, tried various approaches, sometimes seemingly at random. To Zorlak's surprise, Martinez solved the puzzle first. "How did you arrive at that solution?" Zorlak asked, genuinely curious. "It doesn't follow the most logical sequence." Martinez shrugged. "I just had a feeling about it. Intuition, we call it." "Intuition," Zorlak repeated the word carefully. "Your species relies on such imprecise methods?" "Sometimes the most efficient path isn't the most obvious one," Dr. Winters explained. "Human intuition is really just our subconscious processing information faster than our conscious mind." That evening, the testing team gathered to discuss their findings. Medical Officer Prelia displayed a holographic comparison of human and Vexillian biology. "The results are quite remarkable," she said. "Humans and Vexillians have developed entirely different biological solutions to similar problems." Zorlak nodded, his previous arrogance notably absent. "Their adaptability is their greatest strength. Where Vexillians have specialized adaptations, humans have general-purpose systems that can respond to a wide range of challenges. There's something else I've noticed," Nexian added. "Human biological systems seem designed to survive damage and keep functioning rather than avoid damage entirely." "Yes," agreed Zorlak. "Our Vexillian pain sensitivity helps us avoid injury. Humans can endure significant damage and continue functioning. Different evolutionary priorities." As they discussed the findings, an alert chimed from the communication panel. Medical Officer Prelia touched the screen to answer. "This is Station Director Vela. We've detected a contamination in Laboratory Section 7. All personnel in the medical wing should prepare for emergency protocols." "What kind of contamination?" Zorlak asked sharply. "Unknown pathogen. Containment fields are in place, but several station staff have already reported symptoms. As a precaution, please keep the human delegation in the testing area until we can assess any risk to them." After the communication ended, Dr. Winters asked, "Is this serious?" "Potentially," Zorlak answered honestly. "Space stations are vulnerable to pathogen spread due to shared air systems." He hesitated, then added, "I should ensure you're isolated from any risk. Your immune systems may not be equipped to handle non-Earth pathogens." Daniel Green, the security officer who had been mostly silent during the testing, spoke up. "Maybe we can help. Dr. Winters is an expert in immunology." Zorlak's first instinct was to dismiss the offer, but his experiences over the past 2 days had changed his perspective. What could humans possibly contribute to a containment situation? "We've dealt with our share of outbreaks," Dr. Winters said calmly. "And our immune systems, while different from yours, have certain advantages you might find useful." Zorlak thought for a moment, remembering the surprising test results. "Very well. We'll work together. But first, we need more information about this pathogen." As if in answer, the station lights flickered and shifted to emergency red. The containment situation was escalating. And unknown to everyone in the room, it would soon reveal the most surprising human biological advantage yet. The station's emergency systems bathed everything in red light. Warning messages played over the communication system in multiple languages. Zorlak led the humans to the main medical center, where several station staff were already being treated. "What's the situation?" Zorlak asked a fellow Vexillian doctor who was scanning a patient. "Unknown airborne pathogen," the doctor replied, voice tense. It escaped from a sample container in the xenobiology lab. 23 staff members are showing symptoms already. Zorlak examined the medical readouts. Respiratory distress, fever, neurological effects. Do we know the origin? We believe it came from the Praxis system cargo shipment. Dr. Winters stepped forward. May I? She asked, gesturing to the medical scanner. Zorlak hesitated only briefly before handing it to her. His past 2 days of testing had earned humans at least some professional respect. Winters examined the readings carefully. The pathogen is targeting cell membranes, specifically certain protein receptors. Have you tried a sample on human tissue yet? No, Zorlak admitted. We were about to place you in quarantine for your protection. Let's test it first, Winters suggested. Human cell structures differ from most galactic species. Lieutenant, Martinez rolled up his sleeve. Use my blood sample. A small amount of Martinez's blood was extracted and exposed to the pathogen. Everyone watched the viewing screen as the interaction played out at the cellular level. This is remarkable, Zorlak said, leaning closer to the screen. The pathogen is attempting to bind to your cell receptors, but failing. Your cellular structure is far incompatible with it. Our immune cells are destroying it quite effectively, Winters observed. The pathogen doesn't seem to recognize human cells as viable hosts. More patients arrived at the medical center. Zorlak was alarmed to see some of his own research team among them, including Medical Officer Prelia. Her pink skin had turned an unhealthy gray, and she was struggling to breathe. The containment protocols aren't working, another doctor reported. The pathogen is spreading through the environmental systems. Dr. Winters turned to Zorlak. Let me help. I have experience with outbreak containment on Earth. What can humans possibly contribute to this situation? Asked another Vexillian doctor sharply. They appear to be immune to the pathogen, Zorlak replied. And at this point, we need all the help we can get. The next hours were chaotic. Dr. Winters worked alongside the station medical team, analyzing the pathogen and developing treatment protocols. Meanwhile, the other humans helped move patients and maintain order. 6 hours into the crisis, Zorlak himself began showing symptoms. His breathing became labored, and his scales took on a dull appearance. You need to rest, Martinez told him, helping him to a bed. There's too much to do, Zorlak protested weakly. We've got this, Martinez assured him. Dr. Winters thinks she's close to a treatment. As Zorlak's condition worsened, he observed the humans with growing amazement. None of them showed any signs of infection despite continuous exposure. They worked tirelessly, hour after hour, without the rest periods that other species required. Dr. Winters appeared at his bedside looking tired but focused. We've identified the pathogen's mechanism. It targets a specific protein configuration in your cell membranes. Humans don't have this exact protein structure, which is why we're immune. Fascinating, Zorlak wheezed. Your primitive biology is saving you. Different, not primitive, Winters corrected gently. We're developing a treatment using compounds from our blood serum. Your immune systems can use these compounds as a template to fight the pathogen. Our medical technology is among the most advanced in the Confederation, Zorlak said. Yet we need human blood to solve this crisis. The irony is not lost on me. Winters smiled. Science is full of surprises, that's what makes it interesting. By the 30-hour mark of the crisis, all the humans were still working, though they showed signs of fatigue. Dr. Winters had developed a treatment that was showing promising results, using antibodies derived from human blood samples. Zorlak, still confined to bed but improving with treatment, watched Lieutenant Martinez help move a patient. The human had been working for over 30 hours straight. Don't your species need to sleep? Zorlak asked when Martinez passed by his bed. We can push through when necessary, Martinez replied. Humans can stay awake for days in emergency situations, though it's not healthy long-term. Days? Zorlak's 4 eyes widened. Without any sleep cycles at all? The record is about 11 days, though mental function deteriorates significantly. Zorlak shook his head in wonder. Yet another surprising adaptation, By the 40-hour mark, the crisis was under control. The treatment developed from human blood compounds was working, and no new cases had been reported in 6 hours. The station's filtration systems had been purged of the pathogen. In the quiet aftermath, Zorlak sat in the medical center's office with Dr. Winters and Lieutenant Martinez. Both humans looked exhausted but satisfied. "I owe you an apology," Zorlak said formally. "I dismissed human biology as primitive and inferior. I was wrong." "No apology needed," Martinez replied. "Scientific progress comes from challenging assumptions." "Still, my behavior was unprofessional," Zorlak insisted. "I allowed prejudice to cloud my scientific judgment. What matters is that you were willing to change your view when presented with new evidence," Dr. Winters said. "That's the mark of a true scientist." Zorlak looked thoughtful. "In my 300 years of scientific work, I've never encountered a species quite like humans. Your adaptations are unorthodox but remarkably effective." 300 years? Martinez raised his eyebrows. "That's impressive longevity." "Average for a Vexillian," Zorlak replied. "How long do humans typically live?" "Currently about 80 to 90 years, though that's increasing with medical advances." Zorlak's eyes widened again. "So short? Yet, you accomplish so much in that time." "Perhaps that's another adaptation," Winters suggested. "Limited lifespan might drive us to act more quickly, take more risks, try more possibilities." Zorlak considered this. "Another perspective I hadn't considered." He paused, then added, "The Galactic Medical Council meets next week. I would like to present our findings there, with your assistance, of course." Martinez looked surprised. "You want to present human biology to the Council?" "Yes. Your species has much to teach us despite, or perhaps because of, your unique evolutionary path. This pathogen crisis has made that abundantly clear." As they discussed plans for the presentation, Zorlak realized how dramatically his view had changed in just a few days. The humans he had dismissed as primitive had demonstrated remarkable capabilities that had quite literally saved lives, including his own. The universe, it seemed, had many paths to biological success. And Zorlak had much more to learn. The Great Hall of the Galactic Medical Council gleamed with polished surfaces and floating light displays. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the tiered seating, representing nearly 40 different species. The low hum of conversation in multiple languages filled the air. At the center of the hall was a circular platform where speakers presented their research. Dr. Zorlak stood there now, looking far more humble than he had a week ago. Behind him stood Lieutenant Martinez and Dr. Winters, the first humans ever to address the council. High Counselor Virine, a tall being with iridescent skin, called the session to order. "Today we welcome Dr. Zorlak of the Vexillian Science Academy to present findings from the first comprehensive study of human biology. This follows the remarkable resolution of the pathogen crisis at Research Station 7. Zorlak stepped forward, his four eyes blinking nervously. He had practiced this speech for days, knowing that it represented a significant shift in his scientific reputation. "Esteemed counselors," he began, "1 week ago I would have presented a very different assessment of human biology. I would have called it primitive, inefficient, and oddly designed." He paused. "I would have been entirely wrong." Murmurs rippled through the audience. "My initial assessment of humans was based on preconceptions, not evidence. I assumed that, because their biological systems differ from our established galactic standards, they must be inferior. The events of the past week have thoroughly disproven this assumption." Zorlak activated a holographic display showing comparative data from the tests. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme environmental variations, numerous predators, and countless pathogens. Their biology reflects these challenges. The display showed Martinez running on the track. Humans possess remarkable endurance, capable of sustained physical activity for hours. Their thermal regulation allows functioning in temperatures from freezing to extreme heat. Next came cellular images. Their immune system, which I initially described as chaotic, proved essential in combating the recent pathogen outbreak. Its aggressive, adaptable nature allowed for rapid response to an unknown threat. Zorlak continued through the data, highlighting human pain tolerance, toxin resistance, and sleep efficiency. With each point, he contrasted his initial dismissive assessment with the actual test results. Throughout the presentation, the council members leaned forward with increasing interest. For many, this was their first detailed information about human biology. Perhaps most significant, Zorlak said, is the human capacity for rapid adaptation. Where most galactic species have evolved specialized solutions to specific challenges, humans have developed general-purpose systems that can respond to varied and unexpected situations. He turned to gesture to Martinez and Winters. These representatives worked for over 40 hours without rest during the crisis, maintaining cognitive function despite fatigue. Their immune systems provided the template for our treatment. Their problem-solving approaches offered solutions we might never have considered. Zorlak's voice became more passionate. In my 3 centuries as a xenobiologist, I have never encountered a species that so thoroughly challenges our understanding of biological success. Humans remind us that evolution finds many paths to survival, and different does not mean inferior. He straightened his posture. I therefore propose a formal research initiative between humans and the Galactic Confederation, focusing on medical applications of human biological adaptations. The recent crisis demonstrated that human immune responses may offer new approaches to pathogen resistance. When Zorlak finished, there was a moment of silence before questions began. Counselor Jackson, a crystalline being from the Rigel system, spoke first. You suggest that human biology offers medical benefits to other species, despite their shorter lifespan and lack of specialized adaptations? Yes, Zorlak replied firmly. Their generalized adaptations provide versatility that specialized systems sometimes lack. Their immune response alone could revolutionize our approach to new pathogens. Another counselor asked. But surely their limited lifespans are a severe evolutionary disadvantage. Dr. Winters stepped forward. With permission, I would like to address this question. The council chair nodded, and Winters continued. Our shorter lives may drive our innovation. When you have limited time, you approach problems differently. Many human medical advances came from the urgent need to overcome our biological limitations. The questions continued for nearly an hour. Finally, the High Counselor called for a vote on Zorlak's proposal for a joint research initiative. The result was nearly unanimous approval. Afterward, at the reception, Zorlak found himself surrounded by curious colleagues. Many wanted to meet the humans and learn more about Earth. You've become quite the advocate for humans, Dr. Nexian said, joining him with a drink. Evidence changed my mind, Zorlak replied simply. Any good scientist must follow where data leads. Across the room, Martinez and Winters were engaged in animated conversation with a group of medical researchers from various species. I believe this is just the beginning, Nexian said. Human integration into the galactic community will bring many changes. Change can be uncomfortable, Zorlak admitted, but often necessary for progress. Later, as the reception was winding down, Martinez approached Zorlak. That was quite a presentation, much different from your initial assessment of our primitive biology. I was wrong, Zorlak said simply. In science, admitting error is essential for advancement. On Earth, we have a saying, the beginning of wisdom is the admission of ignorance. Zorlak considered this. Wise indeed. Your species has many surprises. Martinez smiled. Speaking of surprises, we've received authorization from Earth Command. They're establishing a permanent human presence at the research station. Dr. Winters will be heading the medical exchange program. Excellent news. There is much we can learn from each other. As they walked together toward the exit, Zorlak asked, a question that had been bothering him. After my initial rudeness, why did you agree to help during the crisis? You could have simply remained in quarantine. Martinez thought for a moment. Another human saying might answer that. The true measure of a society is how it treats those who are different. Zorlak nodded slowly. Another concept worth studying. He extended his 6-fingered hand in the human gesture he had learned. To differences, then, and what they can teach us. Martinez shook the offered hand. To differences. As they left the council chambers, representatives from a dozen worlds approached them, eager to learn more about human biology and establish their own research connections. The pathogen crisis had opened many eyes to the potential benefits of human-galactic cooperation. For Zorlak, this marked not just a new research direction but a profound personal change. He had begun the week mocking human biology as primitive and inferior. He ended it as perhaps the galaxy's foremost advocate for human biological innovation. Different, he had learned, did not mean worse or better. It simply meant another path through the universe's endless possibilities. And that diversity of paths made the galaxy stronger, more adaptable, and ultimately more likely to survive whatever challenges the universe might present next.